podcast number 4, this time with Kyle Rozewski. Had to ask him before the program how to pronounce his name correctly because I'd only ever seen it in print before. Well, Kyle, hey, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Kyle, he's a mixed martial artist. He's a professional fighter. He runs a gym here in Shanghai. And, man, we got quite a few things to talk about here. We were just discussing names. Yeah, when you have a...
the singularity and the solidarity of being a Ramsey.
Indeed. There are not that many Ramseys in the world. I mean, I had trouble pronouncing Kyle's last name because, again, I'd only ever seen it in print. But when you have an unusual name, and I do because there are only 500 Ramseys in the United States, for example. Worldwide, I'm not sure. You have kind of a hard time going through life. People have trouble pronouncing your name, or they give you funny looks, or it can be difficult getting a job, whatever. But, yeah, Kyle mentioned he'd never met another Ramsey besides me. I've met one, another MMA fighter, Ramsey Ninjum. He fought in the UFC for a while, and yeah, anyway.
It's just such a random coincidence, though. I really do think there needs to be some kind of a Highlander battle.
Indeed, because the chances of meeting two Ramseys, especially if your name already is Ramsey, is very slim. It's roughly that of winning the lottery. And the chances of both Ramseys being professional MMA fighters is that much slimmer.
Well, you're going, if you go per capita by state, that means there's at maximum 10 Ramseys per state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And where did you guys meet?
We met in Salt Lake City, Utah at a fight event.
See, I would imagine Utah even less so because there's less people than, like, say, California or whatever. So the chances of that are extremely rare.
Wow, that's like winning the lottery like 2 or 3 times in a row.
I feel like I've won the lottery 5 times since I've been here.
Indeed, indeed. Me too, man. Me too. So let's talk a little bit about your background, Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us who you are, where you come from, and what's your story?
Well, obviously from America. Grew up at a small prison town called Attica, New York, and started wrestling when I was very young, when I was like 4 years old, and only did that scholastically. Did a little bit of Taekwondo from like I want to say 5th grade to 7th grade. Believe it or not, I got in trouble for sparring at one point when I was a green belt, and I just didn't go back after that for whatever reason.
Really?
Yeah.
They weren't big on sparring at the Taekwondo school?
No. I mean, we were sparring, so it was, part of the curriculum or the plan class that day. I was very young, but I do remember that I thought I was having fun and we were just going lightly, but apparently that wasn't the case. And I remember just being warned for it. And there wasn't a big deal after that, but for some reason my parents never took me back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, Taekwondo schools are really hit and miss, especially right now. I mean, I've heard it said that Taekwondo is one of the best martial arts themed daycare centers available in the United States right now.
They're very, very successful belt mills at this point, I think. Well, I do believe that as soon as the credibility started going downhill, there was a big financial loss for all of the schools, the traditional schools in America, perhaps worldwide, I don't know, but I can speak for America. And in order to compensate for that, the school owners were just gathering members in and giving them belts, to keep them in there, keep the doors open and stuff. And then what they didn't realize is they created an entire generation of fake martial artists, so to speak.
That's that touched home really deeply for me because I'm a Taekwondo black belt. I did Taekwondo for a very long time, competed for about 10 years, and that was very important to me. And when I started out, it was very difficult. I mean, I had some very serious coaches. I had a coach who medaled in the Olympics, silver medalist, and it was a really serious thing. And then I remember at one point I went to this Taekwondo school, which was, let's say, a little less serious, and I saw, like 5-6-year-olds wearing black belts.
Yeah.
Who didn't even know how to throw a proper kick. I was like, man,
that's
what's
insulting.
Going on?
Yeah, it's insulting. I didn't do anything for years after that until I was actually like playing soccer scholastically and in college, and then I was a music teacher until I was 22 years old. And I decided to pick up MMA training with my buddy. We were just doing it kind of freestyle in a milk house of a barn. We started out, it was really awful, using this little diesel jet heater
Oh, wow.
And we could only run it for like 5 minutes at a time because you were either freezing, so we needed to turn the heater on, but then you're getting gas poisoning, and it's so hot it was like melting our shin guards. It was very focused. You know the cannon heaters I'm talking about?
Okay.
So it was very directed where the heat source was going. So you were warm for 5 minutes at a time, and then your sweat would get cold, and then you feel it freezing to your shirt. So you have to turn the thing back on and off. And we didn't know how to train. We were just punching tractor tires and flipping them, and just literally like asking for a staph infection. I mean, just we're wrestling with open cuts in the milk house.
I tell you what,
it's
though,
silly.
All the great fighters have a story like that where they start out just really rough around the edges.
Oh, man, it was
It's
so
never
awful.
like I started out in this nice polished gym where everything was perfect.
Wouldn't that have been wonderful? No, that's where we started. And then we looked around. It was just the two of us, my friend Jimmy and I. And the closest thing we had was this Kenpo school that was 20 minutes away. So we decided to go there and do some trials, like on their sparring night. And we ended up just staying after for like 2 or 3 hours at a time when our class was done. And within the first few months, we have 6 people staying after with us, and then it was 10 people, and then all of a sudden it's 20.
Yeah.
And the sensei's like, oh, you guys should have a class, and that's basically how it all started. But I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent to the original point. I stayed in this Kenpo school until I was a black belt, and I was very proud of it, and I felt good. But then during my black belt test, I look over, and there's like literally like a 300-pound woman testing for her black belt next to me, and not to take anything away from people who physically have inability or just for some reason can't do it, but this was not a birth thing. This was a clear life choice that led to her current situation, and they're still telling her that she's on the same level as me.
Yeah.
For the stats, and I know it's not a competitive thing between the students, but to some degree that devalued my black belt that I was getting that day.
Indeed. I mean, there really should be some level of athleticism involved with that accomplishment, right?
Yeah, and the thing that sucks about that is it does limit, I don't want to say that the clientele, but the overall demographic, because I do think it should be for everybody. Martial arts is for everybody, but as far as rewarding accomplishments, it should be things you accomplish, not how much time you spent, Because in reality, if she had done her work and been there, that she would have been able to do a lot of things that I could hear people snickering on the sideline during a black belt test. It's like that person is going for a major. Well, what's the equivalent of like a martial arts college education diploma?
Right.
That's what it is. It's 4 years you spend in something at least to get a piece of paper that says you did this.
Yeah.
And she has to show these physical things as part of her degree, and if she physically can't do it, but they say, okay, here it is anyway, like that wouldn't fly if you were taking college. You can't just like fail one course, but they're like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, man, that reminds me. One of the first things I did after college, I applied for a job with the FBI. I wanted to be a special agent.
I could see you doing that. As soon as you said that, like I just pictured 20 movie roles in my head for you, bro.
I started testing, taking their tests, their math and cognitive reasoning tests, and then the physical fitness test, which at the time was really rigorous. You had to be able to do 20 pull-ups in a row. You had to do a ton of push-ups, run a mile in a fairly short amount of time. I don't remember, but I remember looking around the room at the testing center, and some people, I was just like, man, there is no way that guy can do 20 pull-ups. Yeah. And since then, they've lowered the bar quite a bit. I think it's now like I read the curriculum, and it's substantially lower, like 2 or 3 or 4. Something really low, and that has me a little bit worried. Like, man, this is national security we're talking about.
See, and that's the thing. Like, where's the line drawn? It's going to be PC for everybody, But then all of a sudden, everything's going to be such a gray area. There's no real expertise and anything, no real knowledge. I mean, we actually had a little dojo after party at our favorite establishment down the street that night, and in full candor, I alluded to this very subject to that person. And she was obviously offended, and rightfully so. Like I probably didn't deliver it as politely as I should have. But then I turned it around. I was like, well, how would you feel if I went to your job tomorrow and they paid me the same as you for your exact same job? She says, well, you're not qualified. Exactly. Do you see my point? Like if I'm hired, especially in my line of work, somebody pays me more for a fight or gives me a title opportunity because I'm a black belt in Kenpo.
Yeah.
This lady next to me who can't do 2 push-ups can say the same thing. So why am I valued more? If I go to your job and I say I can do this, but I really can't,
Indeed.
Why are you valued more at that point?
I'm a huge proponent of putting the mastery back in the black belt. Like, I remember when I was a kid, everybody just kind of assumed a black belt knew how to fight.
Yeah.
And today, it's not that way so much anymore.
It's almost laughable, especially, I mean, with some of the group chats you and I are in together. You know, like, you can't even, I don't even like bringing it up sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because somebody will find a video within the first 5 minutes that is a mockery of what we do and what we have done. And it just hurts my heart. Like, how can you even be proud of something when it's just a joke waiting to be told?
Yeah, and especially right now in modern mixed martial arts, I mean, for the last 20 years since the UFC began, traditional mixed martial arts has kind of become a running gag in the MMA community. Like, yeah, those guys just pretend how to fight. They jump around and kick and punch at the air or whatever. And there are a lot of very serious traditional martial artists who have become serious mixed martial artists. And you're one of those guys who I can tell is proud of your Kenpo black belt. You teach Kenpo classes at your gym as well as MMA, and it means something to you. So, yeah. Tell me a little bit about this. You brought this coconut water. I love coconut water.
Yeah.
Mind if I take a taste here?
No, that's yours. That is for you, my friend. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank Green. Thank my friend Tames over there, the CEO. Give me a little cheers. Hit it.
Good stuff.
It's perfect after training.
Indeed.
No, but yeah, it is. It's one of those things that I still am very sensitive about because it is time invested. I mean, you know. God, you know better than I do, and I hate to bring up like stuff like this, but we have a very short shelf life.
Yeah.
You know, like what we do is a very serious thing to me, and part of what we do is every step leads up to it. Like every time you threw a kick in a dojo, every time you hit a bag, you were at some risk getting hurt. No, I'm not saying if you end up breaking your hand 3 times punching a bag that fighting is for you. Maybe you should find a different hobby, but like you've been through the same mills that I have and more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you understand what I'm saying, and it's just it makes me not angry, but just like I'm usually at a loss of words at trying to defend what we do piece by piece, like through the traditional stuff, because somebody can always find a video that's a gag. Somebody can always find a picture like that just really devalues what we have accomplished.
Yeah, I get a lot of my fans online asking me to basically tear apart various martial arts, like especially like Wing Chun right now.
Yeah.
Like, make a video about how awful Wing Chun is, and I don't want to do that. I mean, Wing Chun does address some very important aspects of martial arts, trapping and fighting, that sort of thing. It's not all martial arts is, obviously, but it is an important aspect of it. So I'm not going to say, yeah, that's awful and terrible. I mean, I know a lot of guys from that tradition who train in mixed martial arts, and, you know, they use techniques and concepts from Wing Chun and bring it over to MMA as well. Yeah. So, Kenpo. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Okay. That's one of those martial arts I think is really confusing because Kenpo, they all sound very similar. Yep. Which style specifically do you practice?
So Kenpo, Kenpo, is Japanese derivative and became Americanized late 20th century, 21st actually. Ed Parker and I don't know Mr. Tracy's first name, but these basically two of the main students in America each had their own branches, and I was part of Ed Parker Kenpo. It's a lot of like dirty street fighting. There's a lot of unnecessary groin shots, and like we have a particular form. It's called finger set, and it legit is just like the first few moves, like eye pokes, throat gouges, like crotch shots. It's just ridiculous things. But the main application I have for it, and I have used it for, is just hand speed defensively mainly.
Okay.
It turned out to be great for protecting my face. Even though I look like this, it could have been a lot worse. And as with most things, I have a lot of katas that people don't find a lot of use and application for, but all the self-defense techniques and things I've actually found uses for. And it's a lot of it is based on, like, you know, you're always ready for it and waiting. And that is the main thing I've had to change when I teach my students now, is like you can't go out to the metro or anywhere on a bus, like waiting for a bus, and just like in fight stance waiting. Like, I dare you to attack me. I just learned this technique today. And it's very difficult. I mean, my Chinese speaking is terrible as it is, but trying to employ that while showing a move, like, so if somebody grabs you, you know, like you're ready to turn and do this, and then like they you know, go to practice and demonstrate, and you just see them tense up, like they're waiting for you to get there. So
totally expecting it.
Oh man, it's wonderful. But yeah, it's Japanese. The Kenpo with the M that you see, like Chuck Liddell used to practice. That's Hawaiian descent.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a difference, and then Kendo is all these similar spellings, but Kendo is like a stick fighting art.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for clarifying that. My friend Bob, he's a prison guard. He's worked in the Oregon State Penitentiary for many years. He's Ed Parker's Kenpo practitioner.
No, that's funny. My sensei,
super proud of that tradition.
My sensei is a prison guard, Robert Cook.
Okay.
For 5th degree black belt now, and he works at Attica Correctional Facility.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Bob is one of the most intense humans I've ever met, man. But we're a continent apart. I'd love to have him on the podcast, man.
Those guys are so interesting to me because they are the ones who have sifted through the bull crap of the art. Like, if you're committed to something for 30, 40 years like that, there's no way you haven't learned something. And I don't care what video somebody finds of it. 40 years of doing anything, you have found a way to weaponize that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it is. Even if you've been sewing, if you've been crocheting for 40 years, you know a way to take a needle, just like flick it at somebody's face across. Like, you know.
Especially if you've been working as a prison guard, man. I've heard some stories.
Yeah, and he has. They all. My brother-in-law works with him at the same prison, and they all try to get him to show them sometimes. You know, like, oh, come on, Bob, just do. Like, no. And I don't blame him. Like, I wouldn't want to show that in a prison.
Indeed.
I don't know. It just seems that'd be the riskiest of all spots because you'd constantly be getting challenged.
Oh yeah. So much of what I picked up from my friend Bob is this. Basically developing this persona, and it's you could say it's an intimidating persona, but it's just very different. It's almost otherworldly, this persona he puts on to be able to essentially survive at his job and not just become a target.
I always wondered about that too. My brother-in-law is a very sweet individual, but then he goes and works in that hell, and it's just, how do you, like, is there some kind of weird shift you make, some bipolar switch you have to flick when you walk through the door?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I have trouble enough just fighting. Like, that alone, like, that hurts my heart.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so I couldn't imagine actually having to physically defend myself out of fear, not just for competition.
I've heard so many non-fighters remark when they meet fighters, like, but you're like so nice and personable. How, like, what's the deal? I thought fighters were like monsters, and you know, in the cage, come fight time, sure, we have to be able to pull that switch. But yeah, obviously outside of the cage, you know, it's a different thing. And that was one of the most difficult things for me to deal with when I started fighting, was just being able to pull the trigger, essentially. Go from, you know, be a nice guy, be civilized, do unto others as you would have them to do, and then translate that into, you know, punch him in the face, even though I don't even know this guy and have nothing against him.
It is very weird, because I feel like you and I are very similar in that mindset, and it's like one of those things that my mother made me a giant wuss. She made me a giant emotional wuss. You know, like, all my friends know it. They used to pick on me back in the day. So when I told them, like, I'm fighting, like, are you sure you want to do that? Like,
I'm laughing because I can relate to that.
Well, you're absolutely right. But she from day one. I mean, for sure, before I even had memories, she was probably some way, shape, or form telling me fight or flight. You know, be safe, run away. Like, no one grows up knowing to fight. Like, if somebody, the first confrontation you have, generally, you're running away. You have two responses in your brain, fight or flight. And 99% of the world that I know, maybe I could be wrong, you know, but it's always flight first. So when you have that naturally ingrained in you over so many years, and all of a sudden this door closes, you have to fight that guy. Like, you have to.
You're quite literally locked in a cage.
It's the weirdest thing.
Another common response is freeze, because if there is nowhere to run, people often freeze. I mean, I have seen that. I mean, I did that myself, my very first fight.
Yeah, me too. 55 seconds. I didn't throw a single punch.
Wow.
I double-legged the guy against the cage. We bounced off, and he was much taller, so he just, like, mounted me. punched me until I rolled over and choked me, and I wasn't even trying to fight out. You know, like I was just so freaked out by what was happening. I tapped, and then I was so embarrassed. Like that's never fucking happening again. Like I had to go back. Like I was so embarrassed because I made such a big deal about what I was doing. I'm from a small town, so it's a big thing, and I made a big deal about it. And then I went and got embarrassed. So like now we really got to go to work. Like
yeah, man, I can relate to that. My first foray into pro fighting was kickboxing, and again I froze for like 3 rounds. I threw maybe a dozen punches or kicks to the fight. My opponent threw like 100, landed them, and for the most part I was just taking it like and all I could think was don't fall down, fall down.
Yeah,
can't have that happen. That would be embarrassing. Afterwards I was like, man, I need some redemption. But man.
Well, thankfully, at the aforementioned Kenpo school I went to, the very first day they put me against, in the sparring class against this, I think he was like 2nd or 3rd degree at the time. It's a young kid named Ryan Arnold. We're sparring, and I didn't think anything of him. Like I just got done watching Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner fight. And that scrap, was just so incredible. Like changed my life. Like, okay, this is how every fight's got to be. Fight. So I assume like that's how sparring is going to be, So I just stand right in front of this dude, and I'm like throwing these just 1-2s all I got, and his foot is just in so many different places hurting my body in the first 10 seconds. Like I didn't know what to do. I go to hit him, and I just remember nothing but pain. Like I went to kick him, and I don't even know how he blocked it still to this day, but my foot instantly just swelled up.
Oh, wow.
Again. This is my very first. This is before I had a cage fight. This is my very first like dojo sparring session, and I got worked.
Wow.
And again, this is a big deal to me to be able. Like it was an honor to be sparring a black belt for me. Like that was just such a huge step in my career, which didn't exist at that point. Like all I had were like shin guard kickboxing fights with like big gloves and helmets and everything. And this was like the next step up for me in my mind. We sparred. I kicked him. My foot blew up, and I refused to stop. I'm like, no, we gotta do something. And everybody's like, no, we have class soon anyway. Just see how you feel, and then we'll talk maybe later about some kind of memberships if you decide to pursue this. So like, I get in my car and I'm driving.
That was in your like trial class.
Yeah.
Wow.
This was legit my first time in the dojo. So I get in my car, and it was this piece of crap, like stick shift Chevy Tempo. And man, the tires were like so bad. Like I just had no money, so I was trying to pay for all my training and everything, and working as much as I could. But nobody wants to hire somebody. Like regardless, I got stuck in the snow that night. I couldn't make it up the hill going home.
Yeah.
So I have like a 50-pound gear bag with all this stuff I thought I needed to bring for this sparring session because I'd never been to a gym before. And my car will make it up this hill, and I got one like giant club foot now, so I have to pull over. And I park in the snow. I literally parked in the snowbank so my car wouldn't roll down the hill. It wouldn't just like slide down the ice where I lived. And I get my gear bag on my shoulder. I get out 2.7 miles away. Like I measured it. I'll never forget the number as long as I live.
Yeah.
I start limping up the ice hill. I make it just about the top, and then I fall down. And then my bag drops and slowly hits after me. 3-4 times this happened. Like I would just get up, and the trip got shorter every time. I made it like less up the hill every time before I just like would hit my butt, and then slowly, like it would stop for like a second, my whole body, and then I would just slowly slide. Like all the way back to where my car was parked, and I was just so pissed. I was crying at that point, like, God hates me. He doesn't want me to fight. So I put my bag over my shoulder, and I started walking in the snowbank. And because I had the one bad foot, there's one footprint that went way down, the other one went way up. It took me 4 hours to get home.
Oh, man.
So I got home, and oh my God, it was like 2 a.m, something stupid like that. I took a shower for like 50 minutes, and I was like crying myself through it, and I was so pissed. I'm like, fuck this, I'm gonna kick that kid's ass tomorrow. And I went back, and they couldn't believe it, and we just like had an instant friendship through that. And I already complained to Jimmy about everything that happened, and Jimmy told them before I got there, like, if he's in a bad mood, don't worry, he's not mad at you, this is what happened. But instant bond. And then like I don't know, through that, like when you know somebody's of the same heart as you, it's just easier to relate to them, easier to train with them. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was going like 8 days a week and twice a day, they gave me a job to work and teach there. So that was the start of it. And I was just so thankful. And I thought about it, like, man, if I never got my ass whipped that first day, who knows?
Awesome.
If I worked him over, I would have had no respect maybe for this place, and I wouldn't have come back. But because that dude kicked the crap out of me so bad, and I cried so much, I have to come back. I have to do this now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just know some really pedantic person in the comment section is furiously typing down below, there are only 7 days in a week. I'd just like to point out that's a hyperbole, my friends.
I'd like to point out I don't know how to spell hyperbole. That's not true.
So Kyle, tell us about the Animal Fighting Championships and the Animal Gym. What's the story behind that?
Basically, fighting's a dirty game, and we're trying to clean it up. Even if it's just in our little corner of wherever we are, we just open transparency. We're so sick of being in China. I'm sorry, not sick of being in China, but like going to these fights in this country, and I know it still happens in America too. And all of a sudden the door closes. Hey, 2,000 more if you lose.
Oh yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. Or don't worry, your opponent's only 60 kg, and then this monster at 80 kg comes in to fight one of my guys. Like, no, like I'm just so sick of stuff like this happening, and it's happened to me, it's happened to my wife, and we just.
Yeah, for the folks abroad who might not know what Kyle's talking about, I mean, MMA is, for the last, since it started in the People's Republic of China, has been really, really fishy. There's been a lot of fixed fights, a lot of cheating, a lot of favoritism.
Yeah. It's the Wild West. It's so funny now to hear everybody still talk about like how crazy some things are in West Virginia MMA and like some of these states that are just newly institutionalized with sanctioning bodies. Like out of 30 MMA fights here, I think I'm at 29 now. 29. I don't know. Whatever the number is, I think I've had 2 urine tests. The entire time. Yeah, the entire time. And
yeah, I don't think I was never tested once in China. When I fought in Singapore, they test for everything there.
Yeah.
And if you fail, they'll kill you. I kid you not.
it's legit. The first fight I had in Xi'an, I've never hit somebody so hard in my life so many times. Like I would just knee this kid in the face. He would blink at me. He's got the telltale signs of like the back acne and everything, and like the mid-round rage. It's like, dude, you're on steroids. Like, I don't know who doesn't know it, but it's pretty obvious at this point. And it's not even just that. Like all the times like I'm asked to do fake fights and I refuse to do it, and I just see all this garbage here, and it's such a hard sport already.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to be still adding garbage to it.
Indeed.
And that's why we created AFC. It's still a very small thing, but anybody who comes to fight for us doesn't have a worry. You know what I mean? Like you're never gonna step in and be like, oh man, that guy's got 30 fights, I've got 1. Why am I fighting him? That guy's 10 kg overweight. Why am I fighting him? Like we're never gonna ask anybody to lose. Like our last show, one of our 8 on our team won. We had 7 losses.
Okay, yeah.
Tell me I'm stacking my show. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's a really impressive accomplishment, actually, Kyle, being able to put on your own professional mixed martial arts show here in China. That's a big deal. How many have you done so far? Was it 3?
Yep, that's our 3rd one. Yeah.
Okay, you got another one in the works?
We do. We're going to start planning for the end of the year here, and obviously
awesome.
we do want you involved. You know, we need all the credentials. How do I put it? Like we're not like asking for certification or anything, but we need to know people know.
Yeah.
That's how we protect everybody. And that's another thing too we've seen. I mean, even recently, just videos of referees who are watching kids go unconscious.
Oh man.
Do you know which one I'm talking about? Like the one recently, like, it was an MMA fight. The kid didn't have hooks in it or anything, just rear naked choked, went out like completely limp, and the refs like
children's fight?
It was a younger kid's fight, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it was only stopped because the bell rang, and it's like, man. This is how kids get hurt. This is how kids get killed.
Yeah, there's been so much bad reffing. Like my first fight here in China, I was fighting this kid named Amu up in Xi'an, and we traded a lot of punches. I ended up scrambling to get on top, ended up in mount, dropped like elbows on his face, hard, heavy ones for like 2 minutes straight. And I'm looking up at the referee like, why aren't you stopping this fight? He's like, continue. And again, the only reason that round stopped is because the bell rang, and the dude actually couldn't even stand up under his own power. His cornerman had to drag him back, and it was like, man, what is going on? This is a mess.
That's the stuff that needs to stop. That's honestly what makes our sport look bad. Like, that's why it's not a completely accepted thing yet. You know, that's why there still has to be all these special permits and everything needed for these shows, because madness like that goes on. There's just so much unneeded negativity in our sport. It's still financially involved, like medically involved, everything.
Indeed.
And we're trying to clean it up. And I know we're not going to do it, obviously. Like, we're not going to be the cure for this cancer.
But we're not going to be part of the problem, guys.
That's it.
Indeed.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm actually working with a group right now. We call ourselves the Referee Union of Combat Sports. I didn't come up with the name. It's a little Chinglishy. But, yeah, it's a bunch of Chinese guys who are referees. Like, you know a few of them, like, Schofield. Yeah, so, he goes out of his way to go to seminars in the U.S., get certified with John McCarthy. And
see, that's one of those guys, like, every time I see him when I have a fight, I smile and I shake his hand when I'm walking around the cage, like, thank God.
Yeah.
Literally, that is one less worry. Like, when I go in to fight somebody, there's a lot in my brain. Like, okay,
Indeed.
If I do this, this is going to happen. You want to know that
referee has your best interest in mind, that he's going to stop the fight if it needs to be stopped.
Well, not only that, even for the other guy, like I said, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to fight, because I don't like the result either way. Like, if I press and do something really good, I'm going to feel badly about it later that night. Like, I might lose sleep.
Yeah. If
I do poorly, I might go to sleep way earlier than I wanted to. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's a double-edged sword. And to know that there is somebody else in there as a third party protecting both guys is just one less worry for me.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing people go unconscious underneath me, or like, it's just a weird, like, gross feeling.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to accidentally kill somebody, man.
Right, and if they refuse to tap because they're stupid, or they just have a big thing about pride, thank God that referee's there. And that dude in particular is one of the good ones who just, like Schofield knows. He can see. He knows when the guy's going out, breaks it up, everybody goes home happy. No one goes to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's the ideal situation.
Indeed. So, yeah, these guys are, they're the very few referees here in China I would actually trust with my life inside the cage. So, yeah, big shout out to them. Yeah. Let's talk about cauliflower ear for a minute, because I know I talked about it with Eunice the other day, because neither of us have cauliflower. I got a little bud.
Oh, you guys are so pretty.
Right here, and that's it.
Both you guys are pretty. I'm jealous.
And Kyle, if you wouldn't mind for our YouTube viewers showing off those ears for a minute. He's got that classic beautiful cauliflower ear going on there. I get so many questions about this, because again, I don't have it, and a lot of people are under the assumption that everyone who has ever stepped into the cage has cauliflower ear.
No.
Now we were talking about this online the other day. You said something like you first got it from strikes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was already 3 years deep in jiu-jitsu before it happened, and I think it was my third. My fourth fight against a man named Dan Gale, and I ended up in bottom side. And he just postured up, and it was like 3 or 4 hammer fists right before the bell happened. And man, I felt it. I like immediately the first time. Like, it was just the top half of my right ear that blew up, but for like a week it was just fat up top and it was hanging over. You know what I mean? Like one of those really gross, like purple ones. And I had to drain it like 3 times a day, and I'd never felt a pain like that. I remember walking down the street. Crossing the street, I should say, like 4 days afterward, and the wind hitting it, and it dropped me to my knees. Like, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But yeah, once they go nasty and all the pain stops, it's like a bulletproof appendage at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's ever a gunfight around, just hide behind these ears, and you should be okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm a giver.
Yeah, indeed. Man, let's I wrote a whole blog years ago about fixed fights in China, and you mentioned people offered to like pay you off to throw fights, and that's happened to me as well. Yeah. I had a fight once where they did exactly that. Like, they didn't even offer me money; they were just like, lose. I was like, oh no, just do it.
What an offer! Thank you guys. appreciate that.
I know, and I have the same thing. Like while judging fights, I've had like some random dude dressed up like a businessman come up to me and just start saying shady things in my ear, like make sure this guy loses this round, make sure this guy wins this round. I'm like, I don't know you, get away from me.
No, it's.
So I mean, this stuff happens all the time. What would you say are some of the worst cases you've seen personally?
A lot of it happens at weigh-ins. Thankfully now they're doing, like public forum and stuff for this. But there's been more than a few times where I've gotten my opponent's weight video on a cell phone, like 4 hours after I've already weighed in. So like I've been sucking weight, I've been in the sauna. I do all that.
Weigh in by video remotely.
Yeah, and like I'll get done like stepping on this scale, and I can't wait to chug whatever I brought with me. And I look around, I can't find my opponent. And then the promoter comes up with a phone video. It's like, see,
so they could have done anything, man. That could have been filmed at any time.
Yeah, that could have been a year ago for all I knew. You know what I mean? And that's happened to me probably 5 or 6 times, I think. And this like mostly in kickboxing fights. MMA, it's much easier to tell. Like for me, anyway, when you grab somebody, but like you can get away with it more if someone's just standing back and punching you and kicking you, as far as the weight disparaging. But yeah, it's just like am I supposed to be happy? Like, should I feel a sense of pride because you offered me to lose? Like you're worried I'm going to win. Should I be insulted? And then he showed me a cell phone video. It's like, I feel cool that you trust me this much that I won't freak out, but it's like I'm about to freak the fuck out. Like you're showing me like I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So that's probably the worst thing is the cell phone weigh-in videos.
Indeed, man. When I started fighting here in China, they didn't even have weigh-ins. It was the weirdest thing. They just line up all the fighters and say, you're pretty close to the same size.
Yeah.
You fight, and you fight, and you fight. And I'd be like, what? That guy could be like a whole weight class above me. What's going on here?
Yeah, one of the first fights we had, actually, I remember, she was talking about it this weekend, as a matter of fact. Rebecca and I both had a fight in Shandong. And I didn't know it, but I was fighting a 75 kg Sanda legend, like champion Butter.
Oh man, this happens so often.
Yeah, and I had no idea. Like
they'll just throw you to the wolves.
We go. We didn't go right to the hotel, of course. We pull into this gym after this long bus ride, and we go up, and that guy's sitting in a chair, and he's like giving this interview, and I don't know if you know Batur, but he's got these crazy eyes. Like he's this giant Mongolian guy.
Yeah.
He's like leaning forward, and he's like pointing at the camera, and like
I know
like,
exactly who that is.
Like very threatening. I'm like, wow, that's gonna be. Feel bad for us gonna fight that dude. That's gonna suck. And I'm like sitting in the chair, like I'm waiting for like, okay, you go interview for 10 minutes. Like okay. So I'm looking around and like seeing like if there's anybody like where's my opponent, like who's the guy I'm gonna fight. Checking out somebody my size, looking around. Dude never came. Like all right, whatever. Did my interview. They had Rebecca do her interview as well that night, and then she did weigh-ins the next day, and her opponent was like 10 kg more than we thought. Oh no, I'm sorry, no. The fight was at 54 kg, and her opponent went at 60. So I started freaking out. So they asked me to like leave the room for the weigh-ins, and
really?
through that I never weighed in after that, and I never saw my opponent weigh in. But I fought him.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just ridiculous. Like, dude was way bigger. Like, when he came out and they introduced, like, from China, this person, and the Laowai they're fighting. And it was just like the big spectacle presentation, like each fighter on each side. And then we get, like the line starts shortening, and there's only 2 people left, and it's me and the giant Mongolian guy. I'm like, shit. We walk out, we're completely different sizes. Like, this is going to suck.
They have an expression in Mongolia. They call it frog-shaped person. It's where you have a really, really big upper body. And, I mean, you're still pretty much muscly everywhere, but just giant in the upper body. So that's what they say up in Inner Mongolia. Frog-shaped person.
He's a big dude. But he's like the guy, when they're making video games for Sanda, that has like the suit on, like the fluorescent ping pong balls. It's him. Like that's the dude I'm fighting. And he's like 3 weight classes bigger than me.
Yeah.
I think I got paid $4,000 or $5,000 for that fight. Looked at my, thanks manager. Wow. This is wonderful. I went to the hospital that night for 10 stitches in my head from a knee.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I was so pissed, man. So pissed.
If any of the listeners aren't familiar with Sanda, it's a Chinese combat sport. It's a form of kickboxing where they allow throws and takedowns. Yeah, it's a very fast-paced sport. They have a very competitive national tournament. If you are the legitimate national Sanda champion, the Sanda Wang in China, that means you basically beat out 400 other guys who are competing for that same title in a 16-day tournament. It's I mean, these guys have been fighting since they were like 5, 6 years old. They live at sports universities where all they do is train, and
that's even like the misconception I didn't understand until I got here. Sports universities start at like 5 years old here.
Yeah.
It's not like university for us in America where
Not
you're
like a
18 and get done with
degree.
college. Yeah, no, 5 years old, like kids at Tago. Just like what do? You wait to become a fighter or become a coach? Like that's your life.
Yeah, and
From the
there's
time you're 5
I've
years
never
old.
seen anything like a sports university in the United States.
Yeah.
Like the Xi'an Sports University, it's this giant wrestling mat and rings and a
And there's
Sanda
always
Lei
100
Tai.
people in every class. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So it's just a fighting culture throughout your life. So man, it's they really do try to throw the foreigners to the wolves sometimes here.
Oh, that's absolutely what it is. And they love when we have tattoos and we look like badasses, but we can't fight. They love when those guys come through.
Yeah.
Oh, because I mean, if you look, those are the same guys in like every other flyer you see. It's always like that weird V with a mountain and like clouds behind him, or like the straight portrait layout with the fire mountains. It's always a mountain and fire or clouds, but it's always like the same Lao Wai getting beat up week after week. Now it's just come on, man.
Oh man, I remember some friends of mine sent me some pictures of posters that they'd seen around China with my picture on them. I don't have any tattoos, but I guess because I'm got a shaved head and a little stubble on my face, and I'm a foreigner. I look like a good candidate for a poster boy for a Chinese fight show, and so I ended up on these posters of all these events I never even fought in. I didn't even know about.
That's wonderful. Like that's the stuff you're supposed to keep and put on your refrigerator, though. Like that's refrigerator material right there.
Indeed.
Man.
So, your wife, Rebecca, she is also a professional fighter. You guys work together at the Animal MMA gym.
Yep.
That is really interesting to me because my wife is not a martial artist at all, and every time I would fight, she would basically have a heart attack and just worry herself to death. So I've got to ask you, what's that relationship like?
Perfect.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you've cut weight before. You're a much more disciplined human being than I am. So perhaps it was easier for you in some regards as far as your mental approach and the actual dieting itself. But when I'm cutting weight, I'm angry I have to fight, and I'm even angry I have to lose all that weight.
Yeah.
So Saturday's the fight. Come Monday, Tuesday, I'm not a cool person to be around, and she understands why. She gets all of that. The fight's done, win or lose. Everybody wants your picture on the way back to the locker room. They don't care if you're famous or not. You're famous for that 5 minutes in that walk back. And it's frustrating as hell if you're the person on the side, but she understands why. She gets it. The same way that she gets done with a fight, and every guy in the audience wants a picture with the pretty girl who just fought. Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I get that. Like, it's going to take us 10 minutes to get back to the locker room, but smile big, have your moments, and enjoy what you just did. Like, this is part of the reason we do it. It's to be happy, and if that's only lasting a couple seconds through this, whatever. It's not hurting anybody, and unless you go through that, you're never going to understand it unless you have fought and understand all the emotion involved with it and the weight cutting and all the bullshit of training and getting hurt one day and not being able to do it, some small house chore the next day. Somebody understands why instead of just wondering why you're being lazy or why you're not doing something. So it's been perfect. And I got lucky enough to trick a girl who was smarter than me into marrying me. So in all of my intellectual shortcomings, and there are very, very many, she is an amazing support. You know what I mean? Like, crutch is a bad word because it's constant. It's not just a Band-Aid kind of thing. Like, she is the cornerstone in a lot of it. And
that's so cool, man.
The gym wouldn't be here without her. Like, she actually stepped back her fight career to help pay for it by teaching more. Like, she took all these terrible job hours she didn't want to do because the gym still hasn't. It's doing well, but it's not like it's not paying our house rent and the gym rent. You know what I mean? Like we're just getting started. We're in month number 9 now, I believe. So we both can't completely throw everything into that. And she understood that way better than I did very early on, and she started working so much, man. And all this is because of her, you know.
Yeah, man, running a combat sports gym, especially in a country like China, where it's still a very, very niche sport, is it's not something you do if you want to get rich. It's something you got to do for the love of the sport. Man.
And that's another thing that I never even thought about until it started happening is, well, again, like this is one of those regards where you're much more approachable than I am, but like if you were random local Shanghainese girl who come with your friend on your lunch break from work because there's a gym in your same building you want to check out. Yeah. You roll into Animal MMA and you see my scarred face and fat ears staring at you. Come for a class. Like, we're good.
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to check out this gym down the hall. But if Becca is there, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God. Yeah. We'll take a 10-year membership. So
I imagine that makes such a huge difference.
It really does, and I do understand that now. It's not a racist thing. I don't look as approachable as I am, and I understand that now. And it sucks. It kind of hurts my heart to deal with it, but
different kinds of people.
Dude, it's business, man.
They expect different things, man. Like a lot of guys come into my gym and they start looking at my ears like they're not ugly enough. I don't know if I can trust you with my training.
Sorry, I don't meet your criteria.
Scars?
Yeah, jeez.
And with women, it's the total opposite. And that's if you want to make money on a gym, I mean that's a code you got to crack, is how to get women in the gym and involved in combat sports. And you know, when they do, I find they love it and they do it and they tell their friends about it and all that. But man, just getting them in the door in the first place, that's the hard sell.
It's the funny thing is when they come and she's there for like our fight team training. Yeah. You know, and then initially they'll see me. You kind of get the weird look and like the drawback for a second, and they look over my shoulder and see this little blonde girl tossing around like an 80 kg guy. It's like, okay, and then she comes over and starts talking to you. It's like, wow, okay, this is pretty legit. So
that's cool, man. I had the chance to corner a fighter with Rebecca. We were both coaching a mutual friend for a boxing match, and Rebecca has a very high fight IQ, I would say. I mean, she's just able to work on the fly and give some very, very good instructions, very clear and concise.
Well, she's put her time in, and she knows what's going on, and she's been on both ends of it now. Like she was very successful through her whole career, and she has had some real tough opponents, and she's had to go through the grinder. So now she sees like all that happening before it happens. Really, it's like she's got a real good precog sense now in fights. Yeah. So she's awesome to have in the corner, and she yells loud. She can yell loud, man. So yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Let's see here. So let's talk about your fight record for a minute. And this is something that hits close home to me because I know all of your fights have not been recorded on Sherdog or mixedmartialarts.com or any of those other databases, and neither of mine. And I think my fight record, as recorded on Sherdog, it's something like 7 fights total. I've had quite a few more than that here in China. But Chinese fights tend to go under the radar, are not generally recorded on American MMA databases. So what is your actual fight record?
For MMA now, it is 26-12-1.
Awesome.
Yeah. Kickboxing, I believe, is 18-8 and 2. 18-8 and 2. I have 2 weird draws.
Okay.
And then Muay Thai is 2-2. Boxing is now 1-2.
All right.
Just lost my last boxing fight. So yeah, that's the only.
And boxing is a tough sport.
Oh, I was so pissed.
One of my big regrets about combat sports is that I was forced to retire before I was able to try professional boxing, because that was always one of my bucket list items. But man, that is such a tough sport. I mean, it's a lot of MMA fighters and people in general, they look at boxing, and I would say it's the most comprehensible combat sport, because from an outside perspective, it looks like you're just throwing punches, and you know, the average person who thinks they can ball their hand up into a fist and swing their arm thinks, yeah, I know how to box, I can do that. But you know, clearly, as soon as you step in the ring, you realize, no, this is something else. It's timing and distance and all these variables. So out of all those combat sports you listed, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, what would you say is the most difficult?
Oh man, I think in the same regard as Styles making fights, Like the fight style makes the fighter. If that makes any sense. Like I hate Muay Thai. I've never had a Muay Thai fight I've left without bleeding.
Oh,
you know, even win or lose. Like I've had stitches after every single Muay Thai fight. Every single one. The last one that I had, I was 2-1 when I went in there, and I can say out of all the fights, all the grappling tournaments in my career, that was the one I had no business being in. And I knew it the moment I got hit. Like my corner threw me in the towel in the second round.
Was it the elbows that catch up?
I cut my head up, yeah. But I just remember thinking, they didn't tell me, this kid had already fought Buakal and beaten him.
Oh, wow.
He was like the Chinese national team's captain. He was like 23 years old, just this stud. The show was in a high school auditorium. And I actually literally had to push people smoking cigarettes out of my way so I could get to the ring. It's like nobody knew the fighter was coming in where all the other fighters came in. So, you know, it's trying to part the seas to get to battle. And when the moment the kid kicked me, I was like, "Geez, this is completely different." But thank God it's a Thai fight, and he probably can't punch. And then he punched me, and it just changed my life. Like that punch was.
That's one of those things. Muay Thai is you never really know if the guy knows how to box as well, because a lot of Muay Thai fighters have a very limited understanding of boxing, but then you have a few, like my friend Achi, you fought him, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got a very, very strong understanding of boxing and boxing ability, and the ability to create this beautiful fusion between Muay Thai and boxing that we don't always see in that sport. So, man, it's you just never know.
He's another one that sent me home bleeding, actually. Yeah, he cut me up pretty good.
Dude is a trained killer.
He's a beast. He's a beast. But yeah, it's just different. I don't know. I think it's the I did so much with like Dutch style kickboxing in my education that I'm not used to all the angles the elbows and stuff come from. So it's no matter how much I practice it now, I have very ingrained habits, defensively especially. So if I'm blocking down here and an elbow comes up here, like 12-6, that I'm never going to train and never going to be used to. That's going to land. Yeah. So
that's such a weird rule in mixed martial arts. There's no 12-6 elbows. Can't bring the elbow vertically down because a doctor on the New Jersey Athletic Commission who was responsible for writing those rules thought it looked too dangerous for whatever reason.
He saw an ice breaking demonstration.
Yeah.
And then that's all it was. But I mean, literally, like, I don't know how the reason never got to him. Like by the rules in that book for unified MMA rules, I could technically climb to the top of the cage from the inside as long as I never left it.
Yeah.
Jump off of it. If my opponent was lying down, I could just spike my knees into his body, turning his ribs to dust. Perfectly legal.
You're right.
But if I got on top of him and did that and touched him, stand up, that's a foul.
Yeah. Such a bizarre rule, but it's totally legal in Muay Thai. It's a fairly commonly used technique.
It was crazy. It was just jab, and then that comes over top. It's like I don't know where to block.
Such a cool looking move when you climb up the guy and drop it down on top of the head.
It's cool until it happens to you.
Exactly.
It's cool until
it's
cool
on
not.
The other side from a spectator point.
Yeah, man. Oh God.
Oh man. Let's talk about our mutual acquaintance Wang Guan. We both fought this guy. He's fighting in the UFC now. Yeah. Man, he knocked me out at my end of my career. I saw part of your fight with him. You had him in a triangle choke. Is that right? You were close to finishing it, and it took place in a boxing ring, which is kind of a weird place to have an MMA fight. But I fought in boxing rings and cages, so have you. And he ended up like rolling under the ropes to get a reset. What happened there?
He literally like went. This was the rope. The triangle was here. He put his lower half out there. And then the officials stopped it, and then actually Peter was the referee at that point.
Oh wow!
Pretty sure he was. Yeah, actually no, he was because we went to go get reset, and obviously if I have a triangle, like that's how it should have been reset.
Yeah.
So.
But they didn't reset in the triangle.
No. Guan came back and was like complaining about like why we're not standing up. And like I started yelling. Rebecca was furious. Rebecca was going nuts. And then a good 3-minute deliberation started happening, and the referee walked over to the judges on the side. And next thing I know, we're starting the fight standing. And I knew right away, as soon as there was that big delay, like the only time there's a delay of that degree during a fight, because someone's about to get screwed.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason for it. Like what else are you debating? There's nothing more honest in the world than a fight. So the only time you need to stop and think about something is when something dishonest happens.
Indeed.
And that's what it was. And I think there was maybe like 20 seconds left in the round, if I recall correctly.
So did they stand you back up again?
Yep,
after that?
yep. We started standing back up, and right off the cuff, he whipped a head kick, and I blocked it, but it broke my hand.
Yeah.
And then we finished the round, and we came back, and I told my corner, I told back, like I think my hand's busted. Went to the second round. I went for a takedown. I got stuffed, and I punched him in the body, and I just felt like the ripple of pain like through my, entire being. So like I just couldn't attack on my left hand anymore, and he just started firing at will and landing everything. So we finished the round and went back and didn't come out for the third, and that was the only time in my career I'd done that, and it felt like shit. Like I felt really terrible. Like this first time I felt like I died inside the ring. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I felt real cheated. I was super mad at him and everything for a while. I haven't fought for Wu and Feng since. And, I even like deleted their contact and stuff, the matchmaker guy. But even to this day, like I saw him in the hotel, in the Cary Hotel. Wang Guan was going down an escalator. He came back up, shake my hand, like say hi and all this stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, he knows who I am. He remembers me. He remembers both of us for sure. And it's just that's one of those that I'm always going to be bittersweet about. Like, it's cool to say when I watch it, like, yeah, I fought that guy. It's in UFC, and when he does well, I'm happy because it only validates what I've done.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, it's like, mother of God, I beat you, bro. Like, I beat you. Like, I beat you. I beat you.
I know what you mean, man. I went to the UFC event here in Shanghai with my wife, and the whole time, while Wang Guan went, he was fighting Alex Caceres, and my wife was just screaming, "My husband fought that guy!" everybody, he fought that guy. This guy. It's like,
yeah. No, it's a big thing, man, and like I do wish him well. I am happy for him to find that success. But I shouldn't say but. There is always gonna be that little. Why didn't we do it again kind of thing, or like
the little what if they just played it out fairly,
I don't know. I think that alludes to what we discussed earlier in the not so stable world of MMA here in the People's Republic of China. What can you do? The funny thing I think is really hilarious though is that fight doesn't even show up on his record now.
That is interesting.
And he doesn't even claim it happened.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously it's not him like saying no. It's other people. It's.
You think it's like his promoters, or?
Yeah, it's definitely governing bodies here who want to have a.
They just want to
person
bury
from
the
country.
tape to.
Yeah, and I whatever. I don't blame him. Like technically he still won the fight, so if you want to put on your record that's your choice, but there's got to be a reason why.
Yeah.
And the gym I was at the time. The assistant was bilingual, and real good friend and helper to me, and he showed me like the Wu and Feng page comments, and there was like like everybody saying like talking crap about the Chinese kid and supporting the foreigner, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
That never happens,
right? And he shows me all these screen captures, and I go to look at the page myself, and they'd all been deleted like less than an hour later.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, wow, bro, I lost and I can't even get credit for that. Like, what happened here?
That's kind of amazing. I mean, it's, again, having started into MMA like 10 years ago in China, it was virtually impossible to get a fair shake as a foreigner. And slowly, the situation has changed in some places, not all of them. One of the most difficult things I've found as a coach in China as far as trying to promote a fighter is trying to get a local Chinese fighter established in a local Chinese fight show. That's
impossible. No, if you're a foreigner, you only have foreign fighters mainly. Like, and that's another reason why AFC, a lot of the guys I had that night, if you can remember, all my MMA guys were Chinese.
Yeah,
every single MMA fighter I had was a local, and that's because if I go to another fight, they expect me to either bring expensive foreigners or myself. Oh, I have this guy this way, this guy this way. Where's he from? Shanghai. Where's he from? Shandong. Oh, no, we don't need. Sorry. That's all I say is no need.
Yeah.
It's like, why not? You need a fighter. I don't care what this kid looks like. He can scrap.
There's this idea here in China, for those outside the country, that promoting a fight show is going to be more profitable if it seems more international.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a lot of foreign faces on the show, it makes it look more legit. So if you are a foreign MMA coach like we are, and you're contacted by like a headhunter or a promoter for a fight show, they're specifically going to ask you for foreign fighters. And if you have an Asian-looking face, it doesn't matter if you are from the U.S., born and raised, or from Canada or whatever, they don't care. They want foreign-looking fighters.
Yeah. Poor Rex.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Oh,
I had to
man.
go
Case
bend
in
over
point,
backwards to
Rex.
get him that boxing fight. I had to plead to get him that boxing fight. I had to show his passport. I mean, everything.
Yeah, Rex he's a American, young American man with a Taiwanese descent, and yeah, he's such a talented fighter, such a talented up and coming guy, and it is like pulling teeth trying to find fights for this dude.
And even I think the things too is when I do get fights for them, they always want to pay them 30% less than all the other foreigners.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter what their record is. I could have a debut foreigner and a 50 fight experienced Chinese guy, and the foreigner will get paid more. And
Man, it was tragic when I first learned this harsh reality. My good friend Zheng Xiang, he was my judo coach back in the day. He competed with the Chinese national judo team. Just a brilliant athlete back in the day. And I was trying to help him find a MMA fight, just to help establish a record for him. And it was just doors closing in my face. No, we don't want any Chinese fighters. We already have our Chinese fighters. We don't need any from you. Bring us foreigners. That's it. And man, that sucked.
I don't understand the premise behind it. The only thing I can think of is that they consider Chinese against foreigner not on equal terms. Like, I don't know how else it would be construed as like justified as to why you constantly say no to a Chinese because he's got a foreign coach.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make any sense to me at all.
No, it doesn't, but that is the way it is, man. They also really like to set up these like China versus the rest of the world type of shows.
Yeah.
Like the very first one I fought in, it was promoted as China versus America, which is kind of weird because like half the fighters on the roster.
You're probably the only American.
Yeah, they weren't even American. It was me and like one other American, and everybody else was like from like Switzerland and Finland.
My last
whatever.
kickboxing fight, Captain America was from Canada.
It's technically part of North America.
But that happens. Okay.
Oh man.
Okay, makes sense.
Awesome. Captain America from Canada.
That was his nickname, and on the poster, he's from America. The kid's from Canada. Like I got him, and I talked several times. Like he showed me his passport. Not even the same country, but doesn't matter. Because actually, you know what? That day I was also 24 years old, and I suddenly had 60 knockouts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the super hyperinflated record. Man, I remember.
Oh God, it was great. I was just happy to shave the ears off, man. I could have gone back to college.
Man, I remember I looked at the program for the first fight show I competed in here in China, and they had me written down as a UFC champion with some ridiculous record of like 200 wins by knockout. I was like, what?
Oh man, yeah. I've had a few fights where I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I've had a few. It's just amazing accomplishments and credentials.
Oh man,
no. I love the knockout numbers, though. It's the best. Like, how many fights have you been in this year? Because they don't even have communication between each other. Like, there was one point where I had, like, 4 fights in a matter of 19 days. Yeah. And each fight, like, everybody had completely different... It was amazing. I go from one fight, I'm, like, 25 years old with 30 fights. Next fight, I'm 30 years old with 58 fights. It's just that nobody has any kind of communication, so... Depending on where you're at in China, I have an amazing career or I have a really ridiculous career.
Yeah, there are a lot of pros and cons to fighting in China. I would say the big pro is you can fight almost any time you want. There's always a fight show going on somewhere.
That is the one good thing about not having the sanctioning bodies, but it's probably bad long term.
Yeah.
For the people competing. Like I was just actually telling everybody in my gym today, it feels weird like not fighting. I think I'm getting very antsy and almost grumpy because I was fighting every month, and now it's been 2 months, and I don't know what to do with myself. I'm sitting there, just something starts tapping. I can't sit still. And it shouldn't be that way, man. I should be starting to slow down now, like considering my age and everything.
How old are you this year, Kyle?
35.
35, okay. Yeah. Man, I got to say, when I retired from professional fighting, and again, it wasn't something I wanted to do, it was something I was forced to do. I was laying in this hospital bed with a broken skull, and the doctors come in with my wife and basically say, you'll never fight again. And I'm like, but what about this? What if that? And they're like, no, I've got a second opinion, third opinion. The same answers, like, and every now and then, I'll be sparring in the gym, feeling pretty good about myself, and then just get dinged with a little light jab on that soft spot, and I'll start seeing lights, and I'll be like, yeah, there's a reason I'm retired. But I remember that day specifically, I just broke down and cried.
How would
like
you
in
not?
front of my wife, and I don't do that very often, but man, I just broke down and cried, and a big part of it was just like this sense of loss. Like, what do I do now? What do I do now? I mean,
I
this
was
was
questioning
my life.
humanity if you didn't cry. Exactly. It's not exactly how many years or how much money you spend into it. It's legit like the time, and not only the time, but like the suffering times where you don't want to be there. Like there's been so many times I've had fights where I just don't want to go and train. You have to, it's something inside yourself like makes you go there, and when you're done, you feel very like satisfied by doing it, and I don't know, for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but like it's just felt like a sense of accomplishment, made me a better person. If I just went and trained that day, that's a positive. Like, maybe I'm not really providing anything for the world at that point, but I'm not taking anything away, and I just felt like that was my way of improving and eventually giving something back. And now that I'm getting older, all the reminders are there as to why it needs to slow down soon, and they're becoming more frequent, and those give me heart pains, dude. I don't even want to think about the day yet where I know I have to hang it up. Like, I avoid going to the hospital when I'm injured just because it's like Schrodinger's cat, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this is broken or not. I don't know if it's been a few months and it's still like a weird size and
You just
stuff.
rather not know.
Because right now it's not broken. I could still technically fight tomorrow. It hurts, and I might be fighting with like a quarter of what I could be, or I'm sorry, 3/4 of what it could be. But at least I know, like, it's not broken. Like, if I go to the hospital and they tell me it is for sure, there goes any opportunity for it. And that hurts me more than punching someone with this.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah, you know.
And if your mind is not in this state where you have already won that fight, I mean, you just won't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to believe it. You've got to absolutely believe that you have already won that fight before you step in. Because if you go in there with the doubts, like, oh, maybe not, maybe, what if, why are you doing it,
That's what I'm starting to miss. Because we were speaking before about having to wake up and like having not having to wake up, but having to actually initiate during the fight sometimes, and it's just that weird reaction that people aren't ingrained with by nature. I'm getting that way more and more now, where it's like I need doubt. I need to have worry, otherwise I'm not doing anything. Like, I've been doing it so long now, and I've had so many fights, especially here in China, that it's not a worry, or like I'm not scared anymore, to the point I'm not disrespecting my opponents, but I'm not really now seeing all of the consequences like I used to.
Okay.
Like the last kid I fought, holy crap. Like, my last MMA fight, I was positive. I was positive there's no one in this country that could beat me in a cage at that weight class. I was 100% sure before that fight. He proved me wrong after 22 fights at that weight. Well, no, at that weight in China, I finally lost. And but it was at a time I was so confident I couldn't. And it was because, like, I look at the fight now, I didn't do anything that I normally would do because I didn't have any worry. There was no consequence yet for me.
Yeah.
Until he brought it to me, and by the time it had happened, it was already too late.
So how did you deal with that afterward?
Oh, dude, I mean, like, I wasn't really physically hurt or anything. The kid hits real hard. I still haven't been knocked out yet, but I almost wish I would have, because as you, like, see things happening and you can't do anything to change the outcome, that is more of a blow than I'll ever get hit with. Like, that, just not having the control when that's your job, is to have control, and you can't. It's very emasculating. Like I remember just going back to the hotel that night and crying a lot. Like I don't remember half my fights, win or lose, but I can remember a lot, especially when the dude tagged me. Like,
yeah,
I remember all that very clearly because it hurt so much. Like in here, not necessarily in the impact area, but inside. Just the fact that he's doing what I should be doing.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's weird.
Man. Sports psychology, it's one of those fields I've become really interested in lately, but there's not as much information published about that as I really wish there was, especially in terms of combat sports.
Yeah.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you ever listen to music when you train?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of people do. I don't personally, and it's not for any particular reason other than I didn't really grow up listening to music. I grew up in kind of a weird puritanical kind of family where my mom would never allow us to turn on the radio or anything.
Yeah.
And so I just never consciously think about turning it on. But I notice fighters and combat sports athletes who train with music often tend to have a different kind of rhythm to their movement. Like my friend Ricky Lundell, for example, he is notorious for training to music, like Katy Perry, for example, stuff that makes him feel really good and positive. Yeah. What about you? What do you like to work out to?
It's changing as of late. When I first started, I was big into like Slipknot and like hard like metal music. I thought that I need to get angry before I punch stuff, you know. And now actually I'm getting into a lot of Marvin Gaye, Lou Reed stuff.
Yeah.
Like
that's a big turn right there.
Yeah. There's a guy, Eli Reed. He's pretty new, but he's got like an older kind of like Motown style that I really like. And I need to have kind of like a positive swing to it now, because if I let fighting get polarized either way, if it become too, as we said, you know, we're saying before, if I get too nice, like I don't get the job and I get hurt. If I get like too angry at stuff, like it's not getting the job done too well. But as far as training goes, I get over aggressive. I'm hitting a bag in the morning when I'm tired. 2 minutes,
like reacting instead of acting.
Yeah. So it's a nice mediator, I suppose, to have like old school kind of Motown. I'm starting to get into that more with the training. Yeah, it's liberating.
Yeah. So I'd like to address a few questions I get from my viewers. One that I get over and over and over again is how to deal with nervousness. And, you know, it's been a minute since I stepped in the cage for a fight since I've been retired, but you've been doing this pretty consistently, so I'm going to throw this question over to you. How do you deal with those pre-fight nerves?
Oxygen. I'm notorious now for like being almost asleep in the locker room before a fight. You know,
wow.
Yeah, I just put headphones on and I don't even stretch until like 20 minutes before I got to go out, and then I will. And it's all just breath. Being able to think clearly. If you're breathing erratically, that's never going to happen. Like anybody who thinks differently, go jump in the water and just wait till you start running out of oxygen and then make a smart decision. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't happen. Only thing that goes in your head is survival.
Yeah.
So that being said, the more you can find time to breathe in a fight when you're in dire situations and things aren't going well, it's a way of finding a common pattern, something that you can actually go back to and find comfort in. If you're able to breathe, and I tell people like breathe on defense too. If you can breathe when that guy's hitting you and he can hear it, you both know when that guy's going to attack then. You know, like if you're blocking like shh, 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 and you're mimicking the same timing that he is with his fist with your lungs, that is an indication that you know when it's coming.
So you find that connection between breath and movement.
Oh, dude, it's been my big go-to, because I know that I'm not in good a shape as half the kids I fight now. You know, and I'm still outlasting them. I'm still going 3 rounds, and they're bending over the cage. It's like, what happened? You were able to run 5K yesterday. What's up? Like, I haven't run 5K in 10 years. I don't know.
That's awesome. A lot of people ask me, like, what do you do for cardio? And I often reply, cardio is largely an illusion. I mean, yeah, part of it is physical. You have to do the work. But, yeah, there are a lot of really physical specimens, tough kids, athletic kids who will gas out before, you know, somebody who's not nearly in that kind of shape, if their mind is in the right place, if they connect their breath to their movement like that. I mean, I've experienced that personally. You know, I see it all the time. I've got a degree in modern dance, actually, and a lot of people are surprised, like, what, he fights and he dances? Yeah, actually I do, and a big part of that curriculum is understanding the connection between the breath and the body, that breath and movement are connected, and how to connect those. So that is one of those things that has carried over into fighting in a huge way, and I think about more and more every single day.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I always tell everybody in my gym, no breath, no fight. That's like a rule.
Yeah.
It's just a very established thing. Like, that has to be one of the foremost thoughts in your head.
It's like the evil sensei from the Karate Kid Part 3, Terry Silver said, if a man can't breathe, he can't fight.
Oh man, you put me in Cobra Kai. I have to get new gis.
I love the bad guys from the Karate Kid movies. They're the best.
They're the best, man.
Oh man, did you see the Cobra Kai TV show on YouTube? Oh,
I don't mind it.
What do you think of that?
I don't mind it, actually. I think it's the entertainment value was pretty funny.
Yeah.
They have done a much better job choreographing fight scenes.
Yeah.
So that's a plus. But some of it, I don't know where their line is. Like, if they're trying to be ironic with some of their humor or not. But it's just like some of it. I don't know if you're serious, but I want to pick on you, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as soon as I can figure that out and sift through what's irony and what's supposed to be straight up humor, I'll probably enjoy it much more.
Indeed.
But I do like it right now.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I loved the season 1. I mean, I'm kind of wondering where season 2 is going to go with the way it ended and all that. Not going to throw out spoilers or anything.
Dude. I wish I could right now. I have so many opinions on where it's going to go. Like,
well, yeah, let's spoil it. Spoiler warning. Let's talk about the Karate Kid or the Cobra Kai series. All the spoilers right now.
The bigger chick with the glasses and the short hair is going to fight the Russo's daughter eventually. She's a Cobra Kai girl. Like, they're going to have a tournament final kind of thing. It's going to happen. The two senseis have to fight again. Like, they have to.
It's got to happen.
And then eventually the dojos are going to merge.
You think so?
I know so, dude. It's got to.
What about Sensei Kreese coming back at the end, presumed dead, and then all of a sudden he reappears? Bunch of theories online. People are saying, what if he's just like a ghost and he really is dead and only Johnny can see him and he's in his mind or something like that?
I hadn't thought about that. That'd be like a whole, like the Sixth Sense kind of thing. That'd be interesting.
Wouldn't it though?
No, I think he's gonna run the dojo into the ground, and that's part of the reason why they're gonna end up merging. I think he's gonna lose it somehow in some weird corrupt bet scheme. I don't know. But yeah, I do think they're going to combine. And I do kind of like how they villainized Danielson a little bit. It was kind of... It was surprised at first, but they made him look like a bit of a butthole for a couple episodes. Like, all right, well...
Indeed, there are no two-dimensional characters in this show. Everybody is shown as, you know, a fairly well-fleshed-out character with their flaws and all. Nobody's perfect.
Real interesting.
Yeah. You seen that YouTube video? I think it's called something like Daniel LaRusso was the real bully in The Karate Kid. It's made by this guy who hasn't made that many videos, mostly because he doesn't have the time to do it, but this one became enormously popular, and it just shows the Karate Kid story from the original film from the perspective of Johnny Lawrence, which is kind of what we get in the Cobra Kai series, and it just left me scratch my head like, yeah, he was the bad guy. Oh man, how did I not see that before? But it's
right?
all about the way you frame it.
Yeah, just looking through different windows.
Oh man, pop culture, man, pop culture. But I love Terry Silver's advice. He's the evil sensei from Part 3's. Man, the villains have better advice than a lot of, I would say, for practical fighting than Mr. Miyagi does. He's more of a life advice kind of guy.
If I was at a fight practice and somebody told me to whack off, I'd die laughing. I would die laughing. Like there's not. Maybe that's incredibly immature, but bro, oh god, wax on, wax off. What did he say? Did he say wax off? Did he say wax off?
Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. That's a
good lord.
That's a much better cue. I actually had a coach once. He was a former opponent of mine. The first guy who ever knocked me out in a Muay Thai fight ended up coaching me later on. His nickname was No Mercy, and that was kind of his MO. You know, no mercy. You know, you get in there, you hit him hard, you hit him first, and you know he was basically a real life John Kreese. So, man, it worked though. It's an effective strategy to win fights.
Yeah, I'm too much of a wuss.
All right. let's take a look at some other questions our viewers might have. All right, I got this question now. I don't know how many styles of karate you've dabbled in, but this guy says, do you feel it is wise for somebody to learn 2 different styles of karate at the same time? I would think I'd get confused on what moves to make and in what school. What do you think?
I think yes and no. As far as pleasing your sensei, they'll probably be a little upset if you do another school's technique during practice of their technique. But from a competitive combat standpoint, the more diverse education, the better. The more you know, the less you fear.
Yeah.
Seems pretty
pretty
dry in
straightforward.
that, yeah.
Let's see, this is from our friend Jorce70, interesting screen name. Now, my experience with that, I did Shotokan Karate and I did Taekwondo, and those are actually very similar as far as the forms go. The competition format is way different, but the forms are actually borrowed from each other. Taekwondo borrowed its forms from Shotokan, and so they just kind of rearranged them to look like the 10 grams on the Korean flag, basically. But it's basically the same exact moveset.
Okay.
So that was kind of a weird experience for me, because when I went to this Shotokan dojo, it was like, we're doing the exact same moves, and I mentioned that to the instructor. He's like, no, it's totally different. This is totally, Taekwondo sucks. This is awesome. Yeah. So, maybe if you have a touchy-feely instructor, like, that's not the right word. If you have an instructor who...
immensely proud.
Yes, is immensely proud of his martial art, maybe don't bring up the fact that...
they get militant. Yeah, they get. I've noticed, like, the more traditional an art is, and especially with, like, jiu-jitsu community, they are very defensive of their lineage and
absolutely
immensely proud, to put it.
I have a friend, I'm not going to mention him by name, but he trains at 2 different jiu-jitsu schools who don't know that he is training at the other jiu-jitsu school. And he wants to keep that under wraps, because if they find out, there's going to be some drama there.
He's never going to get promoted again. Whatever belt he is, that's his belt forever now.
Indeed.
Good Lord.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. I do understand from, like, a business perspective now, because we have to pay the bills to keep the lights on, but cross training's always been cool with me. Like, I don't know. My coaches always hated it in America, but I think you need to have different looks. I mean, if you spar with the same guy all the time, you might never lose another round again in sparring.
Yeah.
But that's the only style you know how to defend against.
Oh, man, exactly. And I love gym hopping, and I actually encourage my students to do it. I've got a very open door policy in my gym. We actually have a fighter who trains at both of our gyms. Rex, we mentioned him, and I think that's fantastic, because I'm going to be upfront. I don't have all the answers. Yeah. And on any given day, who knows?
Yeah, your style is different than mine. Even though we play the same game, you have different avenues of getting to a finish than I do. And the more we can show any of these kids, that's the better. We're just helping them. I don't give it. If he wins, I don't care if it's by your methods or mine. As long as he wins, that's the thing.
Indeed. I mean, my MO is facilitate the process of helping my students to win fights, not to be the guy who gets all the glory because, they did my system or whatever. I mean, it's not what I'm all about. Have you heard about people pushing to start a belt system for mixed martial arts? Yeah,
I have. And I mixed feelings. I mean, like, what exactly do you belt? The only thing I can think of is, like, you'd have to go by experience, just literally years or number of fights or something. Because if you belt somebody, let's say for being in MMA, and he's the best boxer in the entire city, somebody comes in who's never boxed a day in their life, amazing wrestler, keeps putting him on his butt. Like, how do you justify that guy outranking that guy at that point? It's just such a weird, like, there's too many facets of it. I've actually wanted to, and only in dreams, speak to Pat Miletich and ask him what his system was based on. Like, what does he do? Like, I know Greg Jackson and Winklejohn have a system for ranking as well. I can't crack that code. I don't know, because of what I mentioned. Like, I wanted to do something where, like, we order a specific color rash guard for somebody, because you can't have a belt in MMA. Yeah. We can do a different color rash guard to denote your ranking or whatever. But again, like if somebody comes in, I'm the best wrestler here, like nobody ever beats in wrestling class, gets knocked out by a brand new guy in the gym in boxing class. Like, ugh. Great. Well, there's my MMA black belt lying on the floor.
There's just so many variables there.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know how to quantify that at all besides just competition or literal time training. It's too difficult.
Yeah. And I'm afraid if they started a standardized belt system in mixed martial arts, we'd have the same issue you mentioned with Kenpo.
Belt mills, yeah.
Exactly. It would,
just
to
keep people coming into the gym, just rewards for nothing.
Precisely.
Participation trophies.
And then what happens when somebody says, yeah, I'm a black belt in MMA, and they're not actually able to win fights, and they're not even stepping in the cage to fight. I mean,
yeah, it's like guys in my gym, I tell them, like, you have to be a certain way before you even get a fight, and main reason because I don't want to keep sending my guys out, and us being that gym, people can't wait to fight. Oh, Animal MMA, yeah, dude. Oh, any of their guys, go ahead. It's an easy fight. No, like, I don't want that to be our thing. So everybody's got to do their work before they're allowed to go get the rewards.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here's another question from our viewers about cardio training and strength training. Hold on. Skip that question. We discussed that yesterday with Michael, the wrestling coach. But I'm going to ask you your perspective on strength training. I mean, it's something that's very important for me. Mm-hmm. I encourage my students to get as strong as they can for the weight they're at. What about you? What kind of emphasis do you put on strength training?
It's needed. It's just a necessity for fighting. Absolutely. I mean, I don't encourage people to go into like bodybuilding shows. You don't need to have 8% body fat or whatever a magic number is. But you need to do at least 3 strength conditioning classes per week. That's what my coach forced us. He didn't force us, but he told us flat out, if you want to fight, you're going to be in shape. Like, as I mentioned, I don't want my team to be known as the easy fights. His mentality was, we are not all wrestlers, but we will take you down. And by the end of the 3rd round, if you're still existing and standing, you're wondering what you're going to do next. Like, you wonder how the hell you're going to get out of the 3rd round, because we're going to be over there bouncing in the corner, waiting for the bell so we can get at you again while you're picking your ass up off the stool with help. Oh, and he was awesome. Like, it really struck a chord with me. Like, to this day, I hate doing fitness classes. I hate doing it, but I still do it at least 3 days a week, even when I don't have a fight, even when I'm getting fat. Just because, like, John Cook yelled at me so much. And it's just, he was right. He was right. All of the fights I've lost have been because I've been tired or I had a crappy game plan because that guy had more gas than me. That's it. I mean, when I didn't listen and I didn't come in shape is when I lost.
Yeah, weirdly, athleticism is one of the most undervalued attributes in martial arts in general, because we're often taught this beautiful lie that it's not about strength and athleticism or any of that. It's just about technique, with the misunderstanding that technique is just where you put your hands and your feet. Yeah. But I found that is just absolutely not true. Yeah. I remember my second pro kickboxing match. I was fighting this dude from El Salvador who just looked like a Roman statue with giant pecs and abs and just glistening in the sun. And he was a beautiful man, I'm just going to say it. And I went out there and I kicked him in the guts as hard as I could, and it just felt like my leg just bounced right off him, and there was no reaction just because he was solid. It was like, man, did I just kick a tire or something?
That's mentally damaging.
It is.
Are you going to fight? Yeah. Oh, dude, that's what I was talking about with that kid before. It's like it just breaks you. Like that's the moment you lose a fight.
Yeah, I mean, that broke me right there and then. I realized this guy is made of different stuff than me. He is strong and I am not that strong. What is going on? How am I going to do this? And as soon as you start questioning yourself like that, man, you've already lost.
Well, I had that feeling the first time I hit Achi. Same feeling.
Oh, man.
It's like, so what museum did this statue crawl out of to hit me in the face?
Oh, man, he is a specimen.
Even after, like, we trained together a few months after that fight, and I remember going to his gym, and everybody knows who I am because we fought already, so they direct me to go up in the gym, and I'm waiting there for like 20 minutes, like, where is this guy? Come on, you gotta invite me out here, not even show up. He comes in a sauna suit, already drenched, and he just, like, showed me he just ran 4 kilometers. And then I figured, okay, he's going to take his stuff off, going to start, getting our gear on and sparring. He drops down in front of the heavy bag, does like 300 push-ups, gets up and does this crazy, like, jumping knee routine. And I was getting tired just watching it. And it lasts another 10, 15 minutes. And then he gets done and starts wrapping up. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're going to go now? Like, I'm ready for a nap. And all I was doing was sitting here.
Oh yeah, and he coaches at a few different gyms across town, including here at the JX Fight Club, and and he comes here like after all that sort of thing in the evening classes, skips rope, does all this crazy stuff, and then spars with everybody and just toys with them. I mean, again, he's made a different stuff.
I don't know where it comes from. There's no gray area I've found for athletes in this country. It's either kids that just get murdered and don't know what they're doing and they're done in the first round, or it's freaking beasts like him who just I don't even know what you have to do to beat him. Like, you got to bring some kind of a weapon to a kickboxing fight. He has made a different stuff. Wherever you're at, Achi, I love you, but
I think he'll be here tonight actually at the gym teaching a Muay Thai class there, but.
He was one of those fights that I had that I'm proud of. You know what I mean? But no matter what, you hate losing. So it's just like it always stings whenever I think of him, just because I know he was better than me for at least one night.
How did that fight end? Was it a decision?
Yeah. But he definitely, like, he had control of, I want to say 2 1/4 rounds at least. You know what I mean? Like, I had a minute and a half maybe of like establishing control, and the rest of the time he pretty much held his range out, and he's so good with his knees. It's weird to fight somebody so tall who's so good inside as well. It's like, I don't know where my range to attack is really going to start from. And just great his strategy. And
I noticed a lot of people outside of China are shocked when they find out there are actually tall people in China. Achi is a Chinese guy, and he's quite a tall fellow.
Well, both you guys are just ridiculously big for your weight classes. When you both said it to me, like, this dude's in my weight class. You serious? You look like you're 3 weight classes above me. Right now, I bet you I weigh more than him. I bet you my ass is fatter than Ramsey Dewey right now. And he is giant if we stand them next to each other.
That's entirely possible. And that's another thing Sherdog has wrong. Not just my fight record, but my height as well. It says I'm like 5'10" or 5'11". I'm over 6'1".
Yeah, you're a big dude. You're a big dude. Yeah.
So I'm not as. I know a lot of people. They look up my fight record. They look at my size. They're like, oh, he's a featherweight. He's 5'10". That's not that big. They come to the gym like I don't know, like trying to call me out or something, and then they look up like, wait a minute.
That was the first thing I said to you when I met you at the Pearl. I was like,
yeah, you said you're a giant.
What is going on here? I'm in the wrong weight class. This is bullshit.
Oh man, did you ever meet Will Chope?
Yeah, we trained together a few times.
How tall is he? Like 6'3",
6'3", I think. 6'5"? Yeah, But he's another one somehow. Like, I actually thought
he's one of those giant featherweights.
Yep. Oh, he's got 1.5 million fights too. He just had his 100th fight like 2 weeks ago or something.
Man, I thought I was big for a featherweight. Man, this dude is just like, he's a beanstalk.
I never thought I would come to China and feel small.
There's some tall dudes out there.
Yeah.
Like, man, Schofield. Yeah, our friend Schofield, the referee. Man, that dude's a giant too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we just run out of stuff to talk about? Man, that can't be possible.
I don't know. Us MMA guys are pretty stupid and pretty unidimensional. Is that proper? One-dimensional.
Here's another question. Going back to the Cobra Kai series, did that have any effect on your business at all? Because I know when the Karate Kid first came out, everybody signed up for karate
I got
classes.
At least 2 new Kenpo students
really?
From that. Yeah, and it's funny. One of them was all weird about putting on the black gi at first. I'm like, dude, whatever color you want to wear, it's okay. No one's gonna sweep your leg for that. Just put it on. Put it on.
So traditionally they wear a black gi in Kenpo. Is that right?
In my dojo that I came up in, it was like white and then like black and red and then black later on. But it's one of those things, like, are you really going to deny somebody who has a black gi starting out? Are you going to make them, like... Dress code is not something outside of a gi that I care to really implement. Like, this is not an Orwellian state. It's not 84. Like, wear what you want as long as you're doing the moves and listening to what I'm saying. Cool.
Yeah. And here's another question. I read this book by Dave Grossman, On Killing. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's this book about... wartime statistics of fatalities and basically the science of killology, which apparently is a real thing. And there was this one chapter that really spoke to me as a fighter about combat addiction.
Okay.
And they were referencing guys who fought in the Vietnam War who served several tours of duty and then just felt this strong compulsion to go back because they wanted to, because they enjoyed it. And some of them even wrote and gave interviews afterwards saying it was fun. And I thought, man, that's such a weird thing, because everybody was always saying, like, war is hell, and all that. And I started thinking, well, you know, after I retired from fighting, I remember just feeling this big compulsion. Anytime I would see a cage fight or watch the UFC, I would find myself just like moving involuntarily, like trying to, like, no, don't move this way, move that. If I was in there, I'd do it. And, you know,
it's like
and
habitual.
I never really experienced that before I retired. And afterward, like, I remember judging a fight, just feeling like this weird longing, like, I want to be on that side of the cage. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a number of years later I was working as a referee for this big fight show, and there was the Dragon FC, and there were some really, really tough Ukrainian, Russian Sambo fighters there. And at one point I just looked at them like, these guys looked like they would eat me for breakfast. Maybe I am on the right side of the cage for once. And it took me just years before I could finally get to that point where I didn't feel this compulsion, like almost like an addiction to get in there.
Yeah, it's like habitual PTSD, you know, and it is an addiction. Like, if you condition yourself to do one thing and nothing but one thing for an extended period of time, how do you shut that off? Like when do you shut that off? You haven't yet. You're still coaching. You still own a gym. You still think about it like that. That's really not shut off. And even today, despite your head, everything, if the offer was right, there would be something that came up where you would just forego anybody else's opinions on the matter, any advice, and just do what you wanted to, because you are addicted to it still. You'll never get over that. That's never going away.
Man, that's true. If the number was big enough, I would absolutely find a reason to justify that.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, dude, that probably won't happen. I'll be fine. You know.
Even if I know this, if you were half dead, with half your body, like if you just had a stroke and half of you was not able to go, and they gave you, oh, we're having this cool idea for a fight, the first person to ever have a stroke and go compete in MMA, 8 figures, boom, sign me up. I got a left hand coming for you. Just tell them not to hit this side, please. Like, you'd find a reason to do it, and it's because that's who you are. That's what you've been doing. That's whether we meant to be or not. That's just what we were supposed to be. I don't know how else to describe it, dude. Like, I remember the first thing I wanted to be was a paleontologist. How freaking far from that am I right now?
Oh, I know, right?
That was literally my first love, but when all the options went away and everything came down to it, like, this is the only thing that seemed to make sense. And now I don't know if I can love anything else the way I do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Ooh. Paleontologist, huh?
Yeah. Dinosaur bones, man. I was all about finding dinosaur bones as a kid.
Literally. My mom would always say she wanted to be a paleontologist.
I was in kindergarten. I was really adept at school at that point. I had like a college reading level, and all I could think about was like Triceratops toes. It's just ridiculous for a 5-year-old to be like in his driveway sifting through all the fill they use to cover the sod so your cars can park there, looking for something that could possibly be a toe of a dinosaur.
Have you ever been to Dinosaur Land in Chengzhou?
No, I keep hearing about it.
You gotta go. It's the coolest thing ever. It's gonna wake up your inner child and be like, why didn't this exist when I was 5? God. It's if you're not familiar with Dinosaur Land, I got a video review of it up on my YouTube channel. Go check that out. It's basically Disneyland but with dinosaurs instead of Mickey Mouse. And in the center, they've got this giant dinosaur museum, like one of the largest exhibits of fossils and dinosaur bones in the world, actually, right in the middle of the park. Not Chengdu. What did I just say? Man, I'm blanking on the town. I just said it. I'll come back to that in a second.
Pick up the YouTube link. Yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah, Chengzhou. That's it.
Chengzhou. Okay.
Chengzhou. So I took my kids there. And my 6-year-old, she's going around there. I'm just thinking, like, this is going to be so magical for her, because I remember being that age and just wanting to see a dinosaur fossil skeleton in real life. And the first time I saw it was as an adult, and I was like, it's not the same seeing it as a grown up. And my daughter was like, can we go now? It's like, what? No.
How dare you?
Blasphemy.
Oh gosh, yeah. Even like my kindergarten school picture has like I have like a horrible cheesy Triceratops sweater around with like 3 moons behind it, and it's like the '80s puffy paint colors. And, oh, dude, magic.
Man, it's a great trip.
Magic.
You can take the train there, the high-speed train there. It's fairly cheap. It's way cheaper than Disneyland.
Love the train. Yeah, way cheaper than Disney. Probably quieter too.
Yeah, I mean, for the cost of Disneyland. Sorry, Disneyland. I have a good friend who works for Disney, but this is not promoted.
You're not sponsored by Disney.
I'm not sponsored by
It's
Disney.
cool,
I can say this. Dinosaur Land, if you live in Shanghai, it's for the price of a ticket to Disneyland. You can take the train up there to Changzhou in a couple hours, get a ticket to Dinosaur Land, get a nice hotel, dinosaur-themed hotel you can stay at. Yeah. And then the return ticket back. And
if they serve like Flintstone-style Bronto burgers or something, I am there tomorrow, man. I'm gonna close the gym for a day and just.
I don't know about that, but I'd highly recommend it. If you love dinosaurs as a kid, again, it's gonna open up. It's gonna waken up your inner child.
I'm gonna check that out.
Man, great vacation spot in China. And no, this podcast is not sponsored by Dinosaur Land.
Nor Disneyland.
Or Disneyland.
We should talk to them.
It's just a cool place to go, man.
You could actually do your podcast from Disneyland, perhaps, if we talk to the right people.
Maybe.
You should do it from Dinosaur Land. Why are we looking into this, man? If you had told me the podcast would be in Dinosaur Land, I would have been like 3 days early.
We got to plan that road trip to Dinosaur Land to do a podcast.
I want to be the guest on that show.
We'll do the podcast. I'll carry my mixer with me, get a mobile
I hope you carry
battery
this.
or something while we go on the rides.
Oh my gosh. I'll do one of those little turning wheels to get the electricity pumping just to keep the battery going. I'm there.
Man, they got a crazy roller coaster. It not only does the loop-de-loops and upside-down, twirly, twisty things, but the seats spin 360 degrees while you're doing it. Now, I'm not a big fan of simulated near-death experiences, but I know some people are, and so a lot of people are excited about that sort of thing.
So it sounds like a vomit inducer for me. I'll probably cry a little bit.
Yeah, man. My wife gets motion sickness over the slightest thing like that. So
I have a terrible stomach.
I'm a big
wuss, man. I told you. It's all good.
Man, isn't it funny? Like I don't like going on roller coasters. It is intimidating. Mm-hmm. But getting in a fight cage, totally easy to justify. Like, well, yeah, of course.
I'm afraid of swimming.
Okay.
If I won't go in a pool.
I'm not a great swimmer. I mean, I can
somebody.
do it. I took a swimming class in college specifically to try to tackle that fear I had of drowning in the pool, and man, it's still there. I mean, swimming is great exercise. But I think my fear of drowning holds me back a lot. Not
just the fear of drowning. Like if I'm in someone's pool in their yard and the sun comes up like overhead and I see a weird shadow at the bottom, I start freaking out. I don't know what it is. Like, water's not my friend. Yeah. This water's my friend. I like this water very much. But submerging, won't do it.
Yeah, man. It's fascinating. I had a conversation about rodeo the other day, and I used to do rodeo events as a kid, riding sheep and riding steers, and then when it came time to, riding larger animals, I was just like, no, that's dangerous. You can get killed, and man, it's kind of weird how we can almost create this cognitive dissonance of this activity is super dangerous, but cage fighting, I got this.
One's more in your control.
That is true.
That's what I was thinking. And funny enough, Attica is the home of the biggest rodeo in the East.
Oh, wow.
Whether you know that, yeah.
That is a great point, because a lot of people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you, like, why don't you do something safer than MMA? Why did you choose this?
It is safe to me now.
Yeah, I know, right? You gain a certain level of mastery over the art.
I don't even
body.
like going on the scooter with my wife home from the gym because I'm so terrified. Like I can't determine or dictate what that person on that scooter is going to do. I can't control when they pull out or how fast they're going to go. But the person coming to punch me in the face, I know I can at least grab him.
Yeah.
And at the very least hold them or tackle them. Like I can alter whatever's about to happen in some way, shape, or form to my benefit. That I can't. Like I can't control anything else. Yeah. So I'd rather get in a fight. That's way safer in my opinion.
You ever play one of those 1980s video games where everything on the screen is trying to kill you? It's like one of those shoot 'em ups. That is what riding a scooter in Shanghai reminds me of.
Yeah, man, Space Invaders.
Yeah, if you want to be safe on the road, you just have to assume that every person, every object, every vehicle is going to actively trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Because if not,
Sad
somebody's going to surprise you.
Yeah. That's a really good way of looking at it, actually. It's very accurate. I've never seen anything like it, but now because of it, like I am very much more aware. Just like walking around, you're cognizant to your surroundings. It's actually like Batman's training for the League of Shadows. Just ride a scooter here, same thing. He must have spent a couple years in that mountain. Give it 1 week on a scooter in Shanghai, dude. You're good. You can see through the back of your head.
I think actually riding a scooter in Shanghai has increased my awareness and improved my reaction time.
Your spider sense is amazing now.
Absolutely.
I just heard a fly die outside. Yeah. That's a real trainer right there.
So true. Oh, man. Well. Now, one other thing you're involved in, and I think this is part of the reason you chose the name Animal MMA for your gym and the Animal Fighting Championship. It's not just a cool name like we're a bunch of beasts or whatever, although I think that may be part of it as well. Mm-hmm. But you're involved in charity work with animals.
Yeah. We all of our pets are rescues and stuff, and we just we have a big heart for that sort of thing. I don't know why. Again, I think maybe I'm just more of a wuss than I ever really admit, and my wife indulges me in that. So she's, again, good for this sort of thing. But yeah, we do charity work and have events like to raise money for all the stray dogs that we can. Well, not just limited to dogs, but we work with like Spare Leash, Best Friends China, and a couple other companies that have the same goal in mind, just to basically help. Because that's a very big problem here. Anywhere you walk down the street, if you're walking for 10 minutes or more, you'll see a dog limp by you. You'll see a few picking through garbage or something, and they're either gonna be someone's food tomorrow, or just another part of the trash, and that's extremely sad to me and my wife. Those are living things that deserve care and love, and when you get that unconditional love returned after you help something like that, it's just it's
dogs are really unique animals in that respect, in the way that they're able to show affection to humans. Because I always wanted that from my pet lizards when I was a kid, but it never ever happened.
Yeah, my pet lizard's still a dick. I feed him every day, and he just kind of looks at me, gets a tongue, and just like bounces, goes under his hut. No, even now, like they're like our kids. So I'm guilty of checking my phone sometimes at the time. People are like, oh, you got somewhere to go? I'm like, yeah, I have to let my dogs out. It's just a constant worry. And it's a worry I'm extremely happy to have. I don't know, like I said, that unconditional love just can't be duplicated. Yeah.
That's great, man. That's great. All right. Well, anybody you'd like to give a shout out there in internet land?
My buddy Ramsey Dewey for inviting me onto his show and allowing me to talk and spew my idiocy out here in a public forum. And anybody with anything positive to present, thanks. I appreciate you listening and all the well wishes. Much love.
Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show, Kyle.
My pleasure, man. Thank
Hope
you.
We can come back sometime, and man, if we could get you and Rebecca get a 3-person show going on, a little bit of a dialogue.
She's so smart too. It's really going to be so much better for your show. Instead of just one idiot here, you'll have like an idiot with a babysitter, and she knows actually what to say. So it's good.
I love the way you guys bounce off each other. That's great. So anyway, hey, thanks so much for tuning in for podcast episode 4, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.
Thanks, man. Oi.